Well,
Order in the sleeping chamber.
3, 2, 1, banana. All right. With that out of the way, welcome to the thing it is that we do. My name is Liam, and you can tell who I am because I'm the white guy with the beard.
You know about that opening, Sophie?
No, I don't know about that opening.
Wow, your reaction is underwhelming. It's like, were you in on this?
Well, the opening is not over yet because to my various other directions is Manu, who you can distinguish because he is also the white guy with the beard. And
That
in
is
another
me.
direction is Sophie, who boasts the only nude face among us. So, Sophie, first
You
question.
can't see my beard?
I was just going to ask, when's the beard coming and or where are you hiding it?
I've been growing my beard for weeks.
Don't answer the last part.
I mean, so, this has become a bit of a faux pas. It's very impressive, Sophie.
You have a
Thank
beautiful
you.
beard.
Thank you. It's quite hard.
The beard or the process?
Both.
Fantastic. How are you both
would
doing
agree.
this week? I feel like I haven't spoken to you both in, exactly 1 week.
Really?
I mean, for the purposes of the podcast that people are familiar with.
Yes, okay. All right. then.
All right.
Sure, we'll
We're
say it that way.
bending.
Way to break the
bending the
illusion. These bananas aren't even real.
No, don't break the other illusion.
They're not even
either.
blue.
This is a backdrop. Behind that is a wall.
We're
mean you
actually
don't just live
not
in yellow?
the same room. Or are we?
Whoa.
You know what would be really funny? If we actually were in the same room, but like just have like awkward pauses in
Put up.
between, and for some reason the colors even still don't match exactly.
I've actually thought about that. If we're ever in the same country at the same time, we should absolutely do an episode in the same room, but still in this format. Each
Yeah,
just
and
sitting.
then like
just
breaks the
everyone
fourth
set up
wall,
their own-
and then just
Yeah.
walk into each other's frame.
We could do it Mad Hatter style and keep trading places.
Nice, that'd be super funny.
Sounds chaotic.
Well, speaking of chaos and stuff, this isn't a very good transition. I should say good transition instead. Today, I would like to talk to the two of you about the supernatural.
Ooh, the TV show
That's what I was going to ask. The 15 seasons?
Is it 15 seasons?
feels like 30. Last I checked.
Is it still going? Because that was on in my
Surely
childhood.
not. I don't think it's still going.
Same.
I don't think so.
Pretty sure I watched it while I was in high school.
Gotta
or like
find
middle
out
school or
now.
something.
It definitely started when I was in primary school and was continuing when I was in high school, but surely it must be finished by now.
It finished in November 2020.
Wow.
Whoa. I'm pretty sure it
Yo.
started in like 2005.
Yeah, that is impressive because the way I remember it is like after like
Sophie,
season
bang
2
on,
or 3.
2005.
Nice, wow. Like it was like after season 2 or 3, I felt like they had reached the climax they originally were going for, and then they were like, "Oh, people like this. Let's do another season with an ass-pull climax," and that basically went on for another 15 years, I guess. Apparently,
I mean,
fantastic.
they have a good thing going, the Sam Dean dynamic.
It's a very YouTubey thing. I feel like give me the exact same thing but slightly different.
Kind
And
of.
we'll stretch it out for as long as
Yeah,
possible.
it's like Dreams Manhunt, but with shotguns and angels and
Angels.
demons, I guess.
Yep. Lots of pretty angels.
It's like, let's do it again. This time, really the last time. But actually, no.
Well, I'm going to call O'Hara, or Manu, the Sam of this podcast, and I was wondering if you'd had any supernatural experiences of your own, especially coming from the rich history of bloodthirsty Europe, as well as the funky Japan where you live now.
So, I guess to start on a positive note, both Europe and Japan have a lovely amount of superstition and supernatural stories to go with. On the not so positive note, I'm incredibly unsuperstitious as a person. But I love talking about it, so I definitely have a lot that I do want to share. Especially, I think Japan is almost, maybe that's just because I'm more familiar with the European side of things, but yeah, I'm very, very excited to share like some Japanese superstitions and stuff like that.
Well, do it.
Do it. Okay, well, let's dive right into it. So first of all, like in case you don't know, Japan has kind of that image, I guess, of being a country where people are like generally quite unreligious, because you have this combination of Shintoism, which is kind of, if you don't know, the traditional, going back like thousands of years, like nature spirits. Basically, it's a like heathen is a like a
Hedonism.
That's not the word I think I'm looking for.
I feel like
I
that
don't
is
think it is
to do with,
either,
like,
but I'm down with
Satanism,
it.
isn't
Isn't it like a hedonist, not hedonistic, but hedonist, like heathens, like non-believers, kind of?
Hedonism, the pursuit of pleasure, sensual self-indulgence.
I feel like isn't it the heathens? Isn't that the people, like someone who's like not Christian, kind of? It wasn't that a word? Like,
I think that was, but I think it was
or
a very
something along those lines, perhaps.
I think it was like, I think Christians might call someone like hedonistic or hedonistic, but I think it's quite derogatory in the sense that you are like very frivolous, you don't have beliefs, and it does.
You heathens, and I'm like, yeah.
In
wrong with
modern day
that?
terms, it
Yeah,
would
I'm
be
a
like
heathen.
the rock and roll lifestyle. Sex, drugs, rock and roll. That's the hedonist way.
Clearly, I was mistaken. Then I feel like I should stop digging my
Heathens?
grave.
Is that
Yes,
what you-
maybe is that the word I'm looking for?
Heathens or heretics, those are the two H words that are coming to mind.
I'm not going to defend my position any further. I'm just digging my grave.
To be
here,
fair,
but
English
it
is not
already
your first language.
Thank you. That still hurts.
Do you want to tell this story in German?
Yes. Let me tell the story to you in German.
It's a story.
First of all, yes, yeah, good. No, so going back to my point, Japan is like, it comes from this like nature spirits, and there's spirits in trees, and everything is kind of combined, and so on and so forth. And on the other hand, you have Buddhism that was kind of imported from China, because Japan basically imported 90% of their culture at some point from China. And I was like, you have an alphabet? That's fantastic. We want that.
But
And
simpler.
even though, yes, exactly. Even though Chinese characters really were basically the worst choice Japanese could have taken for their language, like anything would have been better, like English characters, whatever. But it was the first people they met, and they were like, language, and you can write stuff down. That's fantastic. We're gonna take that and kind of press it on our alphabet. So they did that, but they also took over Zen Buddhism at some point, which kind of made its way up from India to China, and from China to Japan. And there kind of developed its own thing where it kind of went away from that philosophical standpoint that it basically is, and became more religious with, you have like deities in there as well, and so on and so forth. And so you have Shinto shrines and Buddhist shrines kind of like together, and they kind of form like this weird Japanese sort of religion where you have both of these like religious backgrounds merging into one. And going to shrines and worshipping deities on the one hand is something like a lot of Japanese people do it, but most people would say they don't actually believe in like God or like the underworld or higher beings, which is really interesting because it forms this image of Japan of being extremely like atheist or non-believing in general. But then on the other hand, I feel like there are very few places in the world where there are as many superstitions and people doing certain things because it's like a cultural belief than in Japan. So even though people will say I don't actually believe in like that statue in that shrine being alive, I'd rather give him the money just to be sure nothing happens is I think an approach that a lot of people have there. And so Japan has a really rich repertoire of horror movies. Like I think Korea has good ones as well. But yeah, that's something
they
Japan is
definitely
known
do.
for as a genre. And in general, like a lot of like ghost stories that people are, again, if you ask them, do you really believe that? They'd probably go like, no, but just to make sure, we're not gonna test it. So, in like certain tunnels and, places that are, famous for like an accident that happened or famous places for suicide. There was the entire Jake Paul thing in case, was it Logan Paul?
Yeah,
I think.
Logan Paul.
If I
Doesn't
remember.
matter. They're both equally as dickish, so assign them the faults of the
Pauls.
other.
Right. So there's a lot of places like these in Japan where there's like they're supposed to be haunted and there's ghost houses that people go to. It's a big attraction thing. And Japan has also come up with a lot of like generally really fun superstition and supernatural like beliefs that are really funny. So for example, you might like this going also to our because it's related to our other work we do in the One Piece anime realm, because word plays are a really big thing in Japanese. And so, for example, the number 4 is an unlucky number because it is shi, which is death, another word for death. Or 9, which is ku, which is the kanji for suffering or pain. So, like these, if you draw the number 49 that's considered really bad.
What about 94? Is it as bad or?
I think 94 might be worse because then
94
you
is like
suffer
suffer
and then you
then
die.
You
death.
suffered and then you
Yeah.
die.
Yeah, if you
But
already
then again,
died first,
49
might
is
not
like
be-
die and then eternal suffering.
You're
like
just
suffering
still
after
suffering?
death.
I thought I would have ended this by now.
Which is, well, 69 on the other hand is eternal suffering, probably, maybe. That is just my interpretation of it now, because it's a 9 on it.
And he never 69'd again from that day on.
Which is
Spooky
why the
ghost story,
Japanese-
Manu.
Have very different sexual relationships.
Which is why Japan has an aging population. True story.
That lack of oral
Don't
sex.
fact check me on that. No, but yeah, so that's the thing that I think is really interesting. And then there's more things like that, where like the kanji reading of certain things have the same sound as other things. So for example, it is believed in Japan that cutting your nails at night, in some places at least, is a bad omen, that you might die earlier or like die because you cut your nails at night, because the word for cutting your nails at night, the kanji for night and nails, is yotsume. And so that's the exact same pronunciation as a phrase yotsume that means reaching the end of your life, basically. So there's a lot of these like anagrams, like goroawase, wordplay kind of situations, which is really fun. And like what is another one? Oh, another one, really fun one, is that Japanese people used to believe, and in some parts still believe, that taking a picture takes a part of your soul away, which apparently goes back to the period, you know, when you actually had to sit still for like 30 minutes or an hour to get your picture taken, and everyone was feeling exhausted afterwards, which is normal, I would say, but they were kind of like, oh, maybe like the picture sucked a bit of my soul out. So that is still something that apparently some people believe in.
The picture
So there's
did a
really
bit too
fun
much
ones.
69ing, a bit too much sucking.
Eternal suffering.
Sucking sufferingly.
Fucking suffering.
Sucking sufferingly.
I have more, but like I don't want to monologue on for too long. So please, I'm gonna give it to Sophie into the Korean Australian realm of superstition.
Yeah.
So
If there's a spider in your backyard,
And you don't have a
probably
thong,
gonna.
run.
no, use your hands. What sort of Australian are you?
Depends on the spider. I've seen your hand, Sophie. There are spiders much bigger than your hand.
Bigger than my hand.
If it was me betting on Sophie's hand versus certain spiders, I would bet on the spider.
Sophie looks like she
Probably
has
because I
pretty
would
strong
actually
hands, so
I have strong hands. I don't know about my willpower though to just.
Maybe
I
if
feel
you
like you
gave
could
like,
smack a spider if it's even
Yeah.
bigger than your hand.
especially if you gave like a hearty war cry as well behind it. I reckon that would increase
Give us out.
Okay.
Please give us your best work right now, Sophie.
Ah! Was that convincing enough?
No.
a lot of
do
number
wanna-
9 in that. I heard a lot of suffering.
It was
Sorry, it's a 9 from me.
out of 10. I'll
Which
take
in
that.
Germany is bad. We want 1.
That was actually a pun because 9 in Germany means no.
Of course. That was very dumb of me.
Right.
Sorry.
So that joke had layers.
It had
to
layers. My
It just
God,
went-
I ruined it. I can only have one language in my head at once, and you stuck Japanese in there, so I completely missed the obvious German pun.
I'm very sorry.
I'm disappointed immeasurably.
In both
I
of
forgive
us.
you.
Yeah, as a Korean Australian, well, I have to say that personally, I'm not a very superstitious person either. But I think I agree with you, Manu, that a lot of Koreans are. There's a lot of dated superstitions that still exist. I don't think people really believe in it as much. I guess another type of religion, or yeah, I suppose it's a religion or quasi-religion that still has its remnants and still has its foothold in Korea is like shamanism. And there's a lot of
Really?
yeah, so shamanism has quite deep roots in Korea, and there's a lot of good films actually about that. There's a lot of good horror films about that, is what I'm saying, which I forget the title of, so I'm gonna have to search that up later. But anyways, something that's really interesting is that, so Korea actually just went through a federal election recently. Very
Right.
recently, I think it was last week or the week before. And a new political party came into power.
The shaman party.
Well, get this. So
No.
they're actually
No.
they're suggesting to move the Blue House, which is the equivalent of the White House for America, or Parliament House as we have it in Australia. I don't know what it's called in
Right.
Japan or Germany, but anyways, they're proposing to move the Blue House, which has been there for, centuries, decades, years. And The formal reason why they're saying that they want to move it is because they want to get closer to the people, so that to improve communication. But rumor has it that the wife of the new president of Korea believes in shamanism, or she's a shamanist. I don't
and
really
she
know
found, she was like with what do you call it, the water-seeking roots, and she was like, this is a good spot.
Sort of, yeah. I think she's saying that that's a better, like the place that they're proposing to move it to is a better location,
better aura.
spiritually.
Is
Exactly.
the argument that
Well,
she's like poisoning his mind? Or?
I do feel it right now. No, I can feel the better aura.
So I don't know how true the rumor is, but apparently that's the reason, because it is known that she does believe in shamanism.
Sort of like
and I
a
thought
Korean
that was
Rasputin.
very bizarre. Yeah, exactly. I was like,
do you
this
do
is an
that?
exact Rasputin situation going on. Imagine changing the location of the White House. And imagine one day the president going, we're going to change the location of the White House because I had a dream and God spoke to me and we must now move the White House.
I mean, I think I speak for both Liam and me when I say that that's not as far from, not as unthinkable in today's era.
I mean, as soon as America gets its first Mormon president, we're all going to Salt Lake City. When I say we, I mean them and the house. I'm staying here.
And not us. I'm staying here as well. I feel like I imagine like Korean shamanism goes, you put cabbage everywhere, and where the best kimchi happens, that's where you put the president.
That's 110% correct. It's even better if you don't have to season it, if you don't have to go through all of the layers and suddenly the cabbage just turns
Just
into kimchi
happens.
by itself.
It just happens
That's when
by
you know
itself.
you've really found the good spot.
Before you can
Fantastic.
pickle it. We should do that with sauerkraut in Germany. This is the sauerkraut house.
That actually reminds me of one of the, and this will link into something supernatural, I promise, but just bear with me. One of the theories behind how Iceland was founded, I believe there was a particular Viking who threw 3 pillars off his boat and then just decided to settle wherever the pillars washed up on Iceland. And I believe that's how Reykjavik and a couple of other places were founded.
Interesting. Another
I
fun
feel like
story,
that one
which
has
is
a bit more
nonsense.
logical basis.
Yeah.
Go on.
I mean, there's more to it. I'm just gonna throw in another fun fact, and I'm not sure if this is true, but I think rumor has it that the Vikings actually wanted to confuse people about the true nature of Iceland and Grönland, because Grön, like in German, is green and Iceland is ice, and so they were like, "This is Iceland." Sounds very cold, right? And this is Greenland, it's green. When it was actually the other way around, which is kind of hilarious, which is like the biggest troll ever, I feel. So that was
They
just
just
a fun
didn't want their
fact. Please
neighbors to
proceed.
settle on good land.
That's
Yeah,
alright. I bring it up because I think that Iceland is the most supernatural place I've ever visited. Like the two of you, I'm not superstitious at all, but I do have an incredible interest in superstition.
I can see that. Because
Yeah.
Iceland is like I've never been, but I've been to the north of Norway when I used to live there, like Lofoten Islands and so on and so forth. So below, like upwards of the polar circle, and you can it's not hard to imagine like giants walking around and
Yeah.
stuff like that, and like yeah,
It's like stepping into a completely different world because the landscape is just like so untouched by all of human history. It's like stepping into Middle Earth, just not in New Zealand.
And let me tell you, because neither of you has been to Japan yet, right?
No.
It's the same here. Like, if you've ever watched like an anime like Ghibli, there's places legit when you drive out of Tokyo and go into a forest. It legit, like, especially in the summer, you have like this dense hot air. You can feel the air, and maybe there's like a small old shrine there. You're like, there's probably something in there, right? There must be something living in there. So it's really easy to like let your creativity and your fantasy play out in like many places here.
As has happened to the people of Iceland, because Icelandic folklore is full of fun supernatural tales of magic and trolls and ghosts, a lot of which is, just adopted from general Norse mythology. But my favorite thing by far are elves, or more specifically, elf rocks. Have either of you ever heard of the concept of an elf rock?
No.
I have not. Is that related to Tolkien creating his language from Icelandic?
No idea.
Okay, never mind.
But the elf rocks are they're very simple things. They're just rocks that are said to house elves, or I believe the hidden folk as they're referred to.
Oh, it's elf rocks. I heard
Yes.
elf rocks.
Elf rocks, as in dresses?
Yes. No, elf rocks.
As in like
frogs.
elf rocks?
Elf.
Frogs that are elves.
Oh, frogs. Like elven frogs.
So, elf rocks. They basically house the elves of Iceland. And when I was in Iceland, as far as I was made aware, there is only one general rule, which is don't fuck with the elf rocks. Because if you disturb them, then some very upset elves are going to make your life a living hell.
How do you distinguish the elf rocks from the other rocks?
That was just about to
Good
be my question.
Question.
Thank you.
I cannot tell you the answer to this because as far as I'm aware, it is arbitrary. Some Icelandic person throughout history has gone walking through the countryside and went, that looks like an elf rock. That's holy now. That is sacred. Don't fuck with it. There's
But are
probably
they, like,
more to it
built
than that.
Do they build roads around it? Is that like a thing?
Well, I have
Are
an
they kept
interesting
separately?
story about that because, yes, very consistently polls are taken and more than half of the Icelandic population believe that elves could exist, according to these polls. So they take this elf business very seriously. So seriously that there are, kind of like Sophie's story, I suppose, they've infiltrated politics. Elves are involved in Icelandic politics through elf advocacy groups who oppose a lot of government decisions when it comes to stuff like infrastructure, building roads, as Manu said.
I would be kind of disappointed if Icelandic politics was not influenced by elves. So I'm very happy.
I know, more politics
my,
should have elves involved.
I do agree, and I'm very happy that my romanticized view of Iceland has now turned into just
Yes.
the view of Iceland.
Now, if it was only called the Council of
correct
Rivendell,
view
we'd
of
have somewhere to
Iceland.
go.
Yes.
I recall one particular story I heard while I was there about a construction company who displaced an elf rock. They didn't destroy it, they just moved it so that they could build a road in its place. And after that, a series of unfortunate events occurred to said company. So many so that they ended up restoring the rock to its original location out of superstition. But not only that, to appease the elves, they also cleaned the rock with high-powered hoses to make it better than it was before.
I'm just gonna say, cleaning it with a high-powered hose sounds more like a torture technique. You know, when you really like blast someone with water. But aside from that, what sort of unfortunate events are we talking about? Because are we not sure that it's just a group of people who would like go and like vandalize on the company and just to screw with them?
Well, here's the thing. I don't think it was vandalism. I don't think the company woke up, got to work the next morning, and then, you know, a bunch of elves had written "cum" all over the walls or something like that. I think a lot of this superstition comes from just Iceland geographically. It's a place with volcanoes and earthquakes and all sorts of crazy, crazy weather phenomenon. I imagine it could be very easy to believe that you've angered the gods in some way if things like that go wrong, because they do go wrong frequently just as a result of natural disasters.
Am I mistaken, but I'm pretty sure in Frozen 2, there are rocks. No, it's Frozen 1, isn't
Frozen-
it?
it's the first
It's just
Frozen.
the first Frozen.
They're
Is
like
it-
elves who are rocks.
Yeah, right? Like little troll-looking elves.
Hmm.
So maybe that was the basis then.
It could. An elf was also featured in the Eurovision movie.
Oh, the
elf
one with-
ended up... Yeah, Will Ferrell.
Yes.
I believe the elf ended up killing someone who was about to kill Will Ferrell. But because Will Ferrell had respected the elf rock earlier, the elf turned into its ally.
The thing that I'm just like most, I guess, confused by is, so you're just walking along, and so certain rocks may be elf rocks, certain rocks may be normal rocks, but you really,
Correct.
like, to an untrained eye, you just wouldn't know.
As a foreigner, I can tell you that I could not distinguish which rocks were elf rocks and which were not.
But certain people will be able to walk along and be like, oh yeah, that's an elf rock, don't mess with that one.
Yep. So the other thing to remember is that the Icelandic population, very extremely comparatively small.
Yes.
So if you know Fred down the road
Yep.
knows that something's an elf rock, everyone's gonna know. I mean, Fred, not the most Icelandic name of all time. It'd be more like Fredson.
Yeah, or maybe he has like a really like difficult to pronounce Icelandic name, and that's
Yeah.
just like what he goes by to everyone else, kind of.
All I know is that his name will definitely end in a son, because every male Icelandic name ends with son, and every female one ends with dottir.
But that's like the last name, right?
Yeah. So I believe they take the first name of the father and then add son to the end, or dottir.
And that's your last name then.
Yeah.
Liamson. That just sounds like
I would be Liam Kevinson,
Kevinson.
Kevin's son is pretty strong.
and you would be... It's better than Kevin, I say that.
I mean, my dad's name is, I guess I would be Raminson.
Ramen.
It sounds a lot better than Kevinson.
I'd be Barnabas Dottir.
That's
sounds
a
fancy.
strong name.
It is very
That
strong.
sounds
Very
sounds
unusual.
like a character from Harry Potter, I'm not gonna lie. Barnabas Dottir. He works in the ministry.
What accent was that, Manu?
I don't know, that was just a made-up accent.
He works in the ministry.
That was my made-up English accent.
Yeah, I
Oh,
thought it
that's
was
English,
British.
is it?
No, I don't think. It was not
I thought
meant
it was
to
pretty
be
good.
a British accent, was it? Not good enough there for me. Well, since we had like a very wholesome, because I think the Icelandic elf frogs are very wholesome. So let's bring it back
Unless
to
you
the
mess with them.
disturbing Japanese superstition that always
yeah,
involve
let's do
murder
that.
and yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, and so I have a lot of good stories here, but like let's go with like an especially disturbing one that just to showcase Japan's rich culture. So this is the story of Okiku, which might be interesting for you because we have a character like that. This girl Okiku lived in a castle as a servant to a famous samurai a long time ago, and so one of her main tasks she was just a serving lady, so she had obviously a lot of tasks, including cleaning the house and so on and so forth. But she was also working in the kitchen, and so one of her tasks was actually caring for her master's, the samurai's collection of very valuable plates. To be exactly worth 10 plates that she had to take care of, polish, and make sure they were all intact and in good care. One day, however, while she was washing and cleaning the plates, she was counting and she realized that one of the plates was not there. And so she just kept counting, and the entire day until the samurai came home, she was looking for that last missing plate. Well, the samurai, on the other hand, when he came home, did of course a very rational thing upon finding out that his valued 10 plates were now only valued 9 plates, took the girl and threw her down the well. Because that's what you do when you only
That's
have...
what you do.
Yeah, when you miss one of your plates, you know...
She left him no choice.
Standard
your
employment
servant.
practices.
Yes. And so this girl, Okiku, since she was murdered in such a brutal and in such a brutal way and for such a ridiculous reason, her soul could not rest. And so every night her spirit would crawl out of the well, which
Also the ring style.
I kind of think might be an inspiration for that. She would crawl out of the well and start counting the dishes. And every time she would reach 9 and realize there was no 10th one, she would screech and wake up the entire castle. And that would go on for weeks and months after she died, until a very common solution for all these things, still valid today in Japan, actually. And I think there's actually still, people who exorcise demons or cleanse the room. So they get just called a Buddhist priest to kind of get rid of her, I guess.
Oh, that's what happened. I
That is
thought you
what
were going to say, so we just put another plate there and it
That
was
would have been maybe the smarter.
That would have been
the
so
smarter
much
thing
simpler.
The thing that bothers me about this story is we never find out what actually happened to the plate.
to do. No, well, that is
Yeah.
part of the mystery.
That has me endlessly curious, more so than the ghosts in the well and
Right.
stuff.
I mean, maybe the plate was the source of superstition. Maybe it grew legs and just scurried away.
Maybe. So there's a lot of these stories.
I-
There's very few positive superstitions I feel in Japan. I might be wrong.
I feel like there's very few positive superstitions in general.
Yeah.
They usually fear this for this reason.
Yeah, I guess there is always some sort of or not always. I feel like sometimes there is actually a lesson in there, a moral of the story that makes sense.
Don't
and
fuck with your master's plates.
yeah, and a lot of other times there is just no moral whatsoever, and it's I'm thinking one thing that'd be interesting, because I can't think of them right now, but I'm pretty sure that Japan, for example, has certain practices still in everyday life. I just can't think for the love of it what it is that are based on superstition that have a real impact on how people conduct modern life. Is there while I'm trying to think of it, is there anything comparable that you I guess the elf rocks kind of would count in that area, but is there anything else you could think of where you have like a very common superstition where it's like if you do this, something bad happens? So like even though we live in a modern
there's really
society,
simple
so much
stuff like
a bad
don't break
one.
mirrors, don't walk
Oh,
under
yeah.
ladders.
oh no, I don't,
Yeah.
I don't mean
etc.
like in that sense. I mean more like where like a group of people, like women or something, experiences like some sort of discrimination based on a superstition, not even on a cultural thing. I'm definitely pretty sure there was something like that, but I really can't think about it.
Well, I mean, that's all of human history with Adam and Eve. Eve did the bad thing,
I guess so.
women are forever
I mean, like
discriminated
witches,
against.
the whole witch hunt that went around.
Witch
Yeah.
trials.
Do you want to know an interesting story about that? So I can't.
No, not at all.
Okay,
No?
well then, never
Okay,
mind.
we're
Let's skip
divided.
it.
Flip a
Let's go to
coin.
the next one. So there has been a really interesting book that came out in 2020. It was a guy who researched the roots of Christianity, and so I obviously, since I'm no specialist or historian, I can't vouch if his book is actually 100% accurate. It's at least presented in a very scientific way, and he actually went to the Vatican archives and everything to research. And so the point of the book is kind of that Christianity was heavily based on using psychedelics in their ceremonies. So basically people used to spike beer, like thousands of years ago, used to spike beer with like certain herbs to get like basically a heightened sensual experience, and that kind of carried on from beer into wine. And so part of the Christian ceremony, especially after like in the early times of Christianity, where it was still like a hidden or like prohibited religion, was that the wine would actually be spiked with herbs and like mushrooms and fungi. So you would actually get
Gotta
like
get yourself some blood of Christ.
Exactly.
Yes.
And so that would actually, you know, like, I mean, I'm not sure like how much you guys are into that, but like psilocybin is associated with, you know, becoming more compassionate and all these things. And so what he argues in the book with a lot of evidence, again, I'm not the wrong person to ask how credible all that is. It did sound very credible, but again, no guarantees on that. Is basically that he says it was based on this. And so and at some point the Christian church decide, oh yeah, okay, so one more important thing. Not only did they use drugs in the early ceremonies, in the early ceremonies of the church and Christian church, but also were all these ceremonies conducted by women. So women played a really, really important role in the early Christian church. And so at some point, as it happens, of course, Christianity became more popular, and the men were like, hang on, we have a biceps and you guys don't, so why don't we take control here? And so the more institutionalized the Catholic Church became, at some points the Pope actually said, okay, we're gonna banish, first of all, like the first step was banishing all psychedelic practice from the ceremony, and at some point it was like, actually I think women should
Pope.
not be leading the ceremony. I think that's the job of men.
This religion just got 100 times worse.
And ever since then, that's why there's just been a decline of Christianity worldwide, because psychedelics have been removed.
Probably. I mean, psychedelics have been a part of like religions for a long time. If you look like into the Amazon, like shamanism, I'm sure that was
Yeah.
probably in Korea as well. And so like the interesting part, because you said witch hunts, like apparently like the women that were actually branded witches originally, which was kind of like the beginning of the entire witch trials, were women who were using herbs like they used to generally practice it in the early parts of Christianity for healing and, you know, like help people with like anxieties and so on and so forth. And because they wanted to banish all that wisdom, because that wisdom used to be passed down like kind of in secret from woman to woman to keep that practice alive. And so they wanted to eradicate that knowledge and that practice completely and like disassociate it with the church. So that's why they started hunting women who were practicing with herbs and so on and so forth, and kind of looking for excuses to actually get rid of them. Which in a way makes it way worse than what you originally think. It's just like people were really stupid and wanted to blame it on someone. No, it was actually like an institutionalized.
Maybe. Are they referring specifically to the American witch trials? Because there was also
the European ones, I think.
European witch trials, which were different. I believe.
Like in the 1500s.
I mean, I'm not too sure geographically which trials this refers to. I think it might be the European as well, because it's a bit older, but I think I can actually see a lot of credibility in that story, because what I know of witch trials, and I suppose I'm also not a very learned person to actually I haven't really done as much research into this, but what I know about the witch trials, I don't know, maybe you can dunk me in water and we'll find out.
Ooh,
but
that sounds like an episode.
we find out if Sophie's a witch. But I heard that
a good
women
title.
also, I think there is a lot of credibility to the idea of like women, using herbs as medicine and things like that. Because as far as I know, I heard that women were able to use herbs to control like contraception as a natural contraception. And so I guess that there is quite a lot of connections, and I guess there's a lot of history there with the Catholic Church trying to ban contraception as well. So it makes sense that maybe it was actually like psychedelics as well. The herbs that they were using, could be linked to psychedelics. But I didn't hear about that before. That's fascinating.
So in case anyone wants to fact check me on this or is just interested in the topic, the book is called The Immortality Key: The Secret History of the Religion with No Name, which was I listened to the audiobook, but it was was really interesting. So you can make up your own mind and check the evidence for yourself, because it's been a bit of some time has elapsed since I listened to it, and so I do think I remember that he really structured and argued for everything really logically. But again, I'm the wrong person to actually fact check that entire book.
Manu was also on psychedelics when he was listening to this.
I was like,
This makes complete sense.
during my Amsterdam trip. It was nice. Fun fact, I actually left the church last time I went back to Europe.
Formally.
That was going to be one of my questions, if either of you were particularly religious or brought up religious.
We actually have this very, very logical and rational practice in Germany that if you're born and you're
Das
baptized, automatically you're part of the church, and automatically we have something called church tax, which is exactly what it sounds like. Not only do you pay your regular taxes, like income tax or business tax or VAT, no, you also pay tax for the church for whatever reason. So I was like, I'm not very religious. I have grave disagreements with the Catholic Church in general. I'm not financing anything they're doing. Like, I want to point out one thing that I think is important. I do think that there is certain work that the church is doing, at least in Germany, that I think is important. For example, we have a shortage of psychiatrists or psychologists, and there is organizations in the church that,
Psychedelics.
Exactly. Also shortage of that. But there's organizations within the church, or like the churches, I guess, that do help people with trauma, with, people who don't have anyone to talk to, people who might not need acute medical treatment, but just might need, someone to listen and share their pain with. And I think that that's a really important thing that, religion or like the church as a community can provide. But I think you don't need a god for that.
With tax, is it something that's just automatically taken out?
Yeah, I just got a letter. I was like, please send us this amount of money because we saw your, tax declaration for last year. I was like, excuse me? And it was like not a small amount. So I'm like, and then I was like, I called them. I was like, I'd like to leave the church. And they were like, oh, that's actually not possible. You actually need to come here in person to the town hall and declare it to a staff member that you want to actively. I'm like, so like the first day I actually went to.
That's why you went back to Germany.
Yeah.
So I went to Germany, and like on the first day I came back, still jet lagged. I woke up, I got my booster shot, then I went to like leave the church, then I went to visit my grandma, and then I had Greek dinner. So it was a eventful day. And then I basically, I died that night.
But congratulations on your emancipation from the church.
Oh, thank you very much.
Emancipation from tax.
If you don't mind me asking, what is the percentage of church tax? Obviously not the dollar amount, but what do you reckon they take from you?
I suppose I can understand the rationale of the church tax existing if that is sort of the work that they're doing. If they are providing those sort of services, I imagine they need funds to be able to provide that. Because it's a very similar situation in Australia. A lot of like NGOs that do the foster care organizations, they're also run by, like they're usually Christian-based NGOs.
But then I would say these services, definitely for the amount that they get in tax money, they definitely don't need that much just for those services. And like, isn't the Catholic Church one of the richest institutions in the world? I might be wrong about that, but they definitely have money.
They have their own country.
Yeah.
So the church tax in Germany is 9% of your income tax, of your income amount.
That's huge.
Fucked. That is
huge.
Massive.
So if you pay, let's say you're really making a good amount of money and you pay,
holy crap.
Let's say you pay $40,000 in or like $20,000 in income tax, then you pay another 10% of that, so $4,000. to the church.
That's insane.
Oh, so it's 10% of the
And
income
that's-
tax, not your income. Okay, that's marginally, like, that's better, but that is still quite a
But it is
big
still
chunk.
It's
like-
still
Yeah, that is
wild.
still quite a big chunk.
That's absurd. That is when religion has gotten far too involved in my life.
So let's see. So income tax in Germany.
I'm sure this is a riveting episode, by the way, discussing German income tax.
How do we get from superstition to German income tax?
Yeah, I started this out with a really juicy topic, and Manu was like, "Oh, guys, I got
Bring
jokes
finances.
I do think it is kind of interesting.
Let me show you my financials for the last quarter."
So income tax goes apparently 9%, no. Okay, there's no clear percentage for that apparently. But nonetheless, like no matter what the percentage is, it's still like 9% off your income tax is still a significant amount in the end.
Any percent is too much
Yeah.
for church
Yeah.
tax, IMO.
The
Oh, I would
existence.
agree.
Religion is a choice. If you want to donate to your church, go for it. Keep them running. I do not want to be forced to give money to the church. Any church.
I mean, to be fair, like me personally, I really enjoy talking or debating also people like friends who are more religious than me, because it's an interesting conversation and debate to have to a certain degree. But like I think the internet is usually the wrong place to have it.
You think?
Maybe we should make it a special. The
Yeah.
atheist special.
Yes.
Blue banana special.
I mean, that's every week for us, really.
We destroyed Catholicism. And it's the Pope with a sad face and Liam with a boxing glove.
Yeah. Take that, Pope.
Anyways, moving back to superstition.
I mean, this isn't a riveting story, but I suppose my own
Oh.
brush with some ghosts
And
and
then I'm gonna go pee
superstition.
if it's not riveting.
All right, you go for
Me
it.
too.
All right, I'll handle this. I'll handle this on my own. It's all on my shoulders. Yeah, so the house that my parents live in, and that I had been living there since I was young, and I recently moved back. Well, I guess it's not even recent anymore. I've been there for about a year now again, but it's a really old house. And my sisters and I always used to think that the house would creak a little, and it just had it's a very dark house. You know, it's old, so it's like timber, it's old timber. And one day my sister did some digging around, and she found out that the previous tenant actually died inside
wow.
the house. And so ever since then, she's been really creeped out, and she actually, like, I know she refuses to sleep inside the house. I mean, she obviously moved out, but have you guys had any personal experiences of your own, any sort of brushes with superstition? Because every now and then I can feel like the doors creaking, I can hear noises, and it always takes me back, like, maybe there is something going on here.
Since you asked, Sophie, I do have a spooky ghost experience. So this story happened in my early 20s. I'd just gotten home from a long day of work. And when I say a long day, I mean I started at like 6 a.m., finished at 10 p.m. By the time I get home, it's almost midnight. And then I do all of the things you do before going to sleep. Whatever it is that you do.
That was not
I did
YouTube
them.
yet?
I was not doing YouTube at the time. This is my early 20s, Manu, and I am quite the elderly gent.
Well, you don't look like it. You could
Ah,
still be in your late
yeah.
20s.
Correct. Yeah, you could still be 31. I reckon you could pull that off.
That's not what I said.
But I don't know if either of you are like this, but when I go to sleep, I'm very particular about where my things go. You know, like phone, wallet, keys.
Yes.
Do you guys have like special places for those?
Yeah,
or
I
you
was
just,
like, don't say
fucking
penis.
throw
Don't
it
say
everywhere?
penis.
I just fondle
My
around.
You said it.
Very
I
special.
thought it. You said it. You said it. I kind of get what you're saying. Like, I'm not as strict about it, but I do try to like bring my room into order and like put things where I feel like
You say the word order like an old British politician. Order?
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 In my
Order?
courtroom.
oh, what's the guy who was in British Parliament? He was legendary, right?
Oh, yeah, what's his name? Order.
Order!
Yeah.
Order! Yeah, well, that was
Yeah,
fantastic.
he was great. Before I get sidetracked, though, so as an example of what I was talking about, back in these days, I would have a chair as a bedside table because I was too poor to afford furniture. And on that chair, I would put my wallet, my keys, my MP3 player, because those were quite stylish at the time, and my phone. those 4 items on the chair, very particular order. Okay? Understood? Everything's down, which means that I am then allowed to lose consciousness because everything's all in order. Now,
That's such a
here's the
toxic way of looking
spooky
at
part.
sleep.
You're not allowed to sleep.
No, not allowed to lose consciousness yet. It's like, wow.
I must put my phone in order.
Well,
Order in the sleeping chamber. Now I just imagine Liam with like one of these like, wigs they had. Like the British ones.
wigs.
And like a small hammer, like on his mattress, like his student.
The gavel.
Order in the sleeping chamber.
Will the member for keys please stick to his side of the chamber?
Anyways, please proceed.
Please go
Please proceed, yes. It was just about to get spooky and you've ruined the vibe, Manu. So I wake up at around 3 a.m., I think, because I, as I often do, need to expel some urine. I have a notorious nana bladder. I wake
for
up at
little
least
Sophie.
once an evening.
on. No context.
However, when I sit up and look to my right, I see something that chills me to my very core, which is an empty chair. My stuff is no longer on it. If this was British Parliament, there would be no order.
No order.
Instead of being on the chair where the stuff is meant to be in the order it's meant to be in, everything has now made its way onto my bed. And I want to emphasize, there is a gap between the chair and my bed. It's not like right up against it.
So it's not like you could have grabbed it in your sleep or something.
I highly doubt it. And I cannot accurately convey the sheer fear I felt in this moment. Because I know it sounds ridiculous, and I've kind of purposely been playing it up to sound ridiculous, but I legitimately thought that someone might be in the house, and I was the only one in the house that night. And I couldn't work out how my particular things in their particular spot made their way to the bed in a very clean way, I might add. It didn't look disorderly. It was like, item, 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 item. And other than like a bout of really precise sleepwalking or sleep moving, to this day, I still don't know how this happened, so it was probably a ghost.
That is really... That is
Yeah, that is
spooky.
quite freaky.
I feel like the only 2 explanations for that is 1, a ghost who really wanted to freak you out. Or 2,
Yep.
you had a burglar
Who decided to steal nothing.
and he felt pity with you. It was like he went in, he was like, this dude only has a chair. He was like going through your stuff. He's like, oh no, there is nothing in this. Well, here, good sir, I'm gonna make it a point of giving you your things back. Please do something with your life.
But he wanted to
how
make
I
sure that
became a
you
YouTuber.
knew he was like that he was there, which is why he moved the stuff to really. I think he was trying to point at you. I think you should get a bedside table. This is
Yeah.
no way to live.
There's no order in this bed chamber.
Whereabouts on the bed was it?
Okay, so how do I explain this? Bed here, chair here.
That is
I guess
so
chair,
unhelpful.
chair would be smaller than
Chair and
bed.
the bed
sort
is the
of
same
bed
size. There's definitely.
Why is the
This is
bed
the most
Sorry, I've
disorderly
only
bed
got
chamber.
2 hands and they're the same side. Same size.
Is your bed
Okay.
upright against the wall?
You know what? Okay.
MS Paint time.
Bed
No
here.
wonder he felt sorry
Chair
for you. Your bed
here.
is tiny.
Okay. Oh, so we're looking.
Okay.
The layout of your room is vertical in this scenario.
Yes, this is a bird's eye view.
Okay,
There is
okay.
probably about a half a meter gap between the bed and the chair.
Wait, now you're moving into this. I thought it's a bird eye view, so now you're going upwards.
Well, the bird is going downwards, Manu. Use your imagination.
This is
Okay.
a most disorderly
What was the
bed
question?
chamber. Whereabouts on the bed
So like,
Did
why am I
the
holding
items
the
move?
real ghost happened when I was like, why am I holding tape at my wallet again?
Okay.
he lost
Where
his
where did
soul.
the items move onto the bed was your question,
Yeah.
correct?
So
You can't see this very well, but on camera you can. This is the chair, right?
Mm-hmm.
They moved to the edge of the bed, all in a single file order. If I remember correctly, it went keys, wallet, phone, MP3 player.
Wow.
is that in?
You say in the most
order-
unimpressed
in what
voice
order?
possible.
No, I am. I'm genuinely. Wow.
Wow. What a story. story.
That was the verbal equivalent of smile and nod. Wow.
No, I'm
really
genuinely miffed out by this because I just wanted to ask, there's no way that, are you someone who would have laid it out perfectly on your bed first and then moved it onto your chair afterwards?
Absolutely not, Sophie. The MP3 player and especially the keys do not touch the bed. How dare you accuse me of such a thing?
Okay, then let me ask, was there like a particular order to the items and as how they were arranged on your bed after you woke up?
Yes, they were out of order. Thank you for asking, Manu. They were not in the correct order, which is
Okay,
what
so there was not like
perplexes me
value or
further.
something, or like emotional value. It was not like keys, really need those, or something like that.
There was no discernible pattern that I could... It wasn't a narrative. I don't think it was an author that had planned out where to put these things to tell a story or an artist to convey a meaning. I'm pretty sure I just got fucked with, either by a ghost or by myself.
I mean, if it were a story, that would be important because it would kind of be like part of the story. And when I woke up, the items were on my bed, but not in any order. In the order.
I should probably leave this for the comment section, but I also have a feeling that we're going to get a lot of comments saying it just sounds like we were saying odor like 1,000 times in this episode.
Odor?
Like,
Odor.
as in like the mangaka.
Odor as in the smell? As in the smell? Is that what
Yeah, definitely.
Oh, there's odor. Well, I mean, for a 20-something-year-old who lives alone in his room, I think there was probably also odor
A
in
lot
the
of
bedroom.
odor.
I was not the cleanest in my 20s, no.
Speaking as a
sounds like you were-
20-something-year-old myself, there's definitely odor in a men's single apartment. You might or might not have experienced that before, Sophie.
Smelly guys. I've experienced smelly guys.
You familiar with that?
Yeah, I went to a co-ed school. I know exactly what young men can smell like.
I went to an all-boys school. I know the pinnacle. Actually, the valley of what men can smell like.
Again, depends from where you look at it, I guess.
The stench, I would describe it as.
This
Boys
is something I don't know how
Guys can
true
become
this is.
really disgusting. I've definitely been involved in farting matches before. With
Yeah,
friends.
I agree with you. I've been involved in literal pissing contests before.
I mean, I feel like you guys have tools to do so for a pissing contest. I mean, I've always wanted to, like, I would always want to wake up as a guy, just once, just to see what it would be like to piss as a guy.
Well, firstly, you'd wake up and you'd probably be erect. So that's what happens.
And then I would go to the toilet and become derect.
Coley, now you know what it feels like if
Wow.
there's no reaction to your job. Yeah, I've been experiencing the most of this.
I heard the spiritual.
Sophie is like,
Can I just say, I said that because it is relevant, because when you go to the toilet erect, it becomes more difficult. There's more to like wrangle. You can't just flop it
Do you
down
have
and
to
let
like
it go loose
angle
like a
yourself
hose.
above the toilet to go sort of bird's eye view down?
I just press
No,
it down.
you just
Like-
angle the
Like a
equipment.
person you
Sounds
don't
kinda-
like and you press them underwater. That's how I do it.
Sounds kind of painful.
Press it down.
Manu waterboards his morning wood, confirmed.
Also sounded like really
That's
like
a great
toxic,
title
like
for
toxic
this
mental
episode.
health talk. You press down
Either-
all your emotions, suppress it down, even if it hurts.
If you feel an emotion, Liam, you know what to do. What we men do, you take that emotion like our morning wood and you press it down. So nothing
Into the bowl.
spills. So nothing spills until the bubbles stop rising.
Understood. And don't touch the sides of the bowl.
Anyways,
What were we talking about?
Bringing this back to superstitions, something really
Oh,
odd.
that's the topic of the
Yeah,
episode, right?
I'm sure. Wait. I'm sure there's like pissing. I know. Oh, yes, I have a good one. I remember I had really bad acne. So my grandma was very helpful one day because she was
Pissed
like,
on your face and no more acne. I finished the story for you. I knew where this was going.
You
And that's how
perfectly
you
figured it
developed
out.
your fetish, yeah.
Exactly. Which is what again?
Hence, you're surrounded by the golden.
Oh, right. No, but it was actually fairly similar. She was like, you know what we used to believe?
Sorry?
She was like, apparently it used to be a thing where like young girls were told that if they drink their urine, like their acne would go away. I'm like, Grandma, this is not very helpful. She's like, oh, I'm not saying you should. I'm just saying, that's what they used to tell us. And I'm like, okay, you maybe. That's like, thank you for
I wonder
sharing
if
this
it was just young girls specifically. Does that mean you would have had to drink a young girl's pee, or would it have been okay for you to drink your own urine?
Virginal
I think it was like your own pee, basically.
Your own.
What if you drank someone else's?
Then you'd get more
Something
acne.
bad happened.
Or
Should not
that
have
would
brought
bring
this up.
on acne upon that person.
I agree.
Face of regret. Should not have gone to this topic. We're just building an audience of like a diverse range of fetishists, I'm feeling, with this podcast.
There's
Like,
a very
this
particular
episode,
niche, yes.
Yeah, this episode was great, but please talk about pee again next time.
They didn't even get to the pee talk until 45 minutes in.
Sorry, yeah. What were we talking? Like superstition. You had something to say, Sophie, I think, before I interrupted you rudely with my pee talk.
That's
As
okay.
I did
you can-
afterwards with my continued pee talk.
That's all right. Well, I'm going to continue the pee talk because I'm pretty sure a superstition in the Philippines also involving peeing
Philippines.
is Philippine. Is that you can't pee on the bushes because people live there. I think it might be elves. It could be maybe elves
Filipino
or
elves.
trolls.
Really?
Something like that. Yeah, live in the bushes so you can't pee. Or you have to sing. You have to whistle. That's what it was. You have to whistle as you pee. But the reason why I bring the Philippines up is because something really odd, well, something really cool that I find, maybe it's just a coincidence, is that I recently found out that Philippines and Koreans share a very similar superstition, which is that you can't give someone shoes as a present because otherwise they'll run away, as in they'll run away with the shoes. And typically it's like you shouldn't give your romantic partner shoes as a gift because it's
they might
believed
run
that
away.
otherwise they'll run away with the shoes. And maybe for some context, I guess Koreans, maybe it makes sense because we don't typically wear shoes inside the house. So I guess it's like no Korean would just walk around the house, walk outside of the house barefoot. So maybe it's like now I have these tools to run away. I mean, I'm just gonna go out on a limb here and say maybe it was a really old superstition that if you give a woman shoes, and if you haven't been the nicest husband, she'll run away with those shoes because now she has some sort of tool, some sort of, I guess, footwear. But for the Philippines, apparently, you have to give, the person who receives the shoes has to give them coins in return. So it does go a step further than the Korean superstition. But I thought it was quite bizarre that we have a shared belief.
It is.
It's intriguing.
I also think it's a surprisingly low obstacle to running away from home, not having shoes. I'm like, oh, fuck.
I don't know. It's pretty difficult without shoes. I have found a Filipino pea spirit, if either of you are interested. What I did was I went to Google and I looked up Filipino elves pea, and I didn't click on image search because I'm a veteran internet user. The first result that's come up
Hamster.
is a creature called the Nuno, who is a dwarf-like nature spirit in Filipino mythology, or Philippine mythology. It has 4 magical abilities.
I thought you were going to go somewhere else, like 4 magical penises.
Given the expression on your face, I'm clearly not ready for this.
It can make swelling pain on any part of the body. It can vomit blood. It can urinate black liquid and cause excessive hair growth, specifically on the back. That is the powers of this spirit. This is Nuno.
So wait, Nuno's making you vomit blood and urinate black
Yes.
liquid?
I thought its power was
okay,
vomiting blood. I
Alright.
was like, that's
So
really
it would vomit
shitty.
blood on
I
you?
can urinate black liquid. Where's my entry to the Avengers?
I mean, that would be a pretty good way to crap on someone.
No, its abilities are more like curses that they inflict on you. Or
was
he
like-
inflicts on you.
Yeah, that would be terrible if that's your abilities.
I mean, swelling in different body parts, I suppose, could come in handy.
Yep, that's my Philippine pea story.
I'm having a really hard time. Like Sophie's story already knocked me out of this conversation. Just now.
we obviously take superstitions very seriously.
Very seriously. We're very culturally sensitive as well.
Oh yeah, this is incredibly culturally sensitive. Let me look because I'm German, so like I can definitely make fun of German superstitions. Let me look up German superstitions. The only ones I can come up with from the top of my head is like we have like farmer sayings, which are not as much superstitions as they're wisdoms, which is like, okay, I'm talking about the male chicken when I speak of the cock. This is the tail of the cock. One famous German farmer superstition goes like this. If the cock is sitting on top of the dung, the weather will change or it will stay the way it is. Which is fantastic wisdom.
Wait. Can you repeat that?
So if your cock on your farm is sitting on the dung of the
Yes.
cows or whatever. You know how every farm has like a place where they put all the dung? Yes. If that happens, if that very specific situation and constellation occurs on your farm, the weather will change or it might stay the way it is.
And it has a 100% success rate. this
And I will
superstition.
say that this superstition has never failed me so far.
Koreans also have very like similar, not as much. I mean, I'm sure there are word puns as well, but sort of the Japanese examples you were giving, Koreans have similar ones where we say that you shouldn't eat sea mustard on the day of your exam because it's very slippery, which means
was not sea
What
mustard.
is sea
sea
mustard?
mustard. Yeah, I don't know what sea mustard is.
gonna look
I don't know how to
that up.
describe it.
Sounds
mustard.
awfully suspicious.
But
Oh,
the
wakame.
reason.
So it's just algae.
Yeah, like a seaweed. But you shouldn't eat it because you shouldn't eat it on the day that you're doing an exam because it's very slippery, and that means that you will fail and you won't do well on your exam. On the reverse, in contrast, you should eat something sticky like taffy, like lollies, because it will stick. And that's like a Korean word for, you'll puta, it means that you'll do well in the exam.
There's something like that in Japanese as well with Kit Kats. Like by accident pulled one of the best marketing stunts because
Yeah,
Kit Kat in
and that's why
Japanese
there
is
are so many of them.
kitokatto. And that sounds a lot like kitokatsu, which means you'll definitely win this one. So you give Kit Kats as like a lucky charm.
Nice.
Good for them, right?
Great for them. I don't think we have anything like that in English. English is such a boring language.
There's not a
So
lot of
difficult for
wordplays
no
really. I mean,
reason.
you can pun a lot with English, but like not superstition-wise, I guess.
I mean, the closest we get is that we have lots of words for witch, and witches, they're pretty magical and scary. But which is which, Manu?
Which is which? That is a
Don't just repeat the question, answer it.
No, it's just I did answer it by counterposing it with a rhetorical question.
You don't answer with rhetoric, you answer with an answer.
I don't have an answer. Is there another pun for that?
I was just struggling. That's only two different types of witches,
we
right?
have our English word for that. It's called failure, Manu. And yes, Sophie
very
has
harsh.
correctly
Hurts.
deduced that that is
Very
only two
harsh
witches.
for someone who's English, where English is not his first language, and he probably knows more languages than both of us combined.
I mean, to be fair, like, it does hurt me a lot when, like, I fuck up with my English because I do speak English a fair amount more than German, and I do most of my personal, like, housekeeping and everything in English. So I
you
would
think
argue
in English
that
now?
yes. So I would argue it's more of my main language right now than it is my second language, even though originally it definitely is. So that's why, like, it still hurts. It still pains me.
Good.
Well, you're a failure. You failed
Good, I
in your main
meant it
language.
hurt. Thank you.
But suppress that down, Manu. Suppress it down.
Press it all down. Press it until the bubbles stop.
Yeah, hope I got you with a couple of number 9s there.
Which is funny because in Korean, the k letter is like a laughing letter. So it could also be like we're laughing at you, like
We're laughing
Yeah,
at
so
your
I'm
suffering.
causing your suffering, and Sophie is laughing at it. And you're just sitting there going, 999?
99999. Who knew that the digit 9 would bring all of us together culturally? Very
such a
nice.
myriad of ways.
One thing that was actually really funny. Do you know that our comedian Joy Coy?
Yeah.
No.
Okay, well, you should check him out, Liam. But he has like a really funny bit where he makes fun of like how to tell Asians apart by the accents, if they have one. It's really funny. He has like one for Korean as well. He's like, Korean are the easiest because they all sound like ghosts. They all sound like they're on weed all the time. And like, I think he doesn't speak Korean, but he's like, Opaya. I thought that sounded funny because like I don't speak Korean, but that's how Korean people sound to me.
That's really fascinating because I hear very different accounts of this because my friend who's like hears me speak Korean on the phone from time to time, he always says that I sound very angry. And so his idea is that Koreans all sound very angry. But maybe it's because I'm always just talking to my parents.
I get that. Because like I think the common German stereotype is also that German sounds very angry.
The classic Hitler speech, German.
Yeah, well, German, like my personal perception is more that it's relatively a more gentle language, I would say. So for example, if you look at like Swedish or Norwegian, which are very, very closely related to German, like we have the same grammatical structure and everything. But like I feel like me personally, I think they sound a lot more aggressive or like wild or aggressive than
I was
German.
gonna say, you have a very lovely word for butterfly, which I just looked up. Schmetterling.
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 It's delightful.
Schmetterling.
Yeah, Schmetterling.
Schmetterling.
It's always, it
little
comes down to how you
Schmetterling.
pronounce, but like if you go with the stereotypical
Schmetterling.
Schmetterling, which nobody says.
Schmetterling!
You made that sound like, you know, like someone's last name in like a store, like in a story.
Yeah. Schmetterling!
Schmetterling, get over here. There's no order.
What are you doing, Schmetterling?
You've crossed me for the last time.
Yes, exactly that one. I was kind of looking for the scenario, that one. Exactly.
Oh, you've really done it this time, Schmetterling.
Why'd you move my keys?
Schmetterling. Why is it always Schmetterling?
And so we shall meet again, Schmetterling, here at this very particular place and time. We shall see. Should we end the episode now?
Schmetterling.
Yeah, I thought that was a pretty good outro. I thought you were
Yes,
saying
hang
bye.
on, I will end it. In future, we should probably not end the episode with should you end the episode, but should we end the episode?
We can cut that out.
Keep
No,
it.
It is to stay. We keep it. We're done now. Bye.
Bye.
Hi.